Hello and welcome to Financially Speaking. My name is Ryan Pekka from Bushka Wealth Management. If you'd like more information about what you hear during our show today, give us a call at 715-355-4445 or visit us online at www.retirewithbushka.com. That's buska.com. And while at the website, click on the radio page to check out past shows and subscribe to our program on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, anywhere you can find podcasts. As we head into the final stretch of 2025, a lot of people are reflecting on what the past year has brought and what the next one might hold for them. Maybe you've been thinking about big life changes, like when to finally step away from that 9 to 5 and start enjoying the retirement you've worked so hard for. But making that decision on when to retire is a deeply personal choice, and timing can make a big difference in your financial confidence, both in the long and short term. So today we're going to talk about a few signs that retiring in 2026 might not be the best move, and why giving yourself just one more year on the job could set you up for a smoother, more secure transition into retirement. I read that some people plan to ease into retirement by cutting back to part-time hours. I tried to do that once, and my boss called it showing up late. Might be different for you, though. But before we get started, let me bring in my co-host who swears they've been easing into retirement since the day after high school. Hi, Tony.
Wait, what? Shots fired already, Ryan. Holy cow. Maybe guilty as charged, but seriously, I love what I do. So
Mhm.
that's not true.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are asking that question, Ryan. I think it's important. Is next year or the year after that the right time for me to retire? Do I need to wait longer? So we're gonna dig into that. But first, I have not talked to you since Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
So this is the first time we've had a chance to chat since Thanksgiving, since the break. I have to say, I was thinking about you on Thanksgiving Day, Ryan. I thought to myself, boy, I sure hope Ryan Pekka is able to overeat today.
Oh, we did
Yeah.
two Thanksgivings in one day,
Oh
so
no.
overeating was not an issue. I've made 4 turkeys within the last 7 days, so
Oh my goodness.
yeah, ready to eat something else.
Yes, I bet. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
You're probably finally done with the turkey. My favorite part of Thanksgiving is the leftover turkey, though, like putting it in a sandwich
Mhm.
with some of the leftover homemade rolls or whatever. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's good. I had a good one. I didn't overeat too much this year. I only had one big Thanksgiving meal and then a
Okay.
smaller one. So I didn't do too bad this year, but did get plenty, which is good. Thanksgiving, it seems like always eat too much, always get too full, but it's really about the gratitude and a lot of family to be grateful for. I'm blessed. I can't deny it. My family and I just it's great to have family and friends. I love the quote. I come from a really rich family, and sometimes we even have money.
Yeah.
See, it's not about the yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
But when you do have any money, it's good to have it well managed, and that's where Bushka comes in, Bushka Wealth Management, and you, Ryan. So I'm excited to dig into the show today. I know that you're getting back into the swing of things. You love hearing from our listeners, so I encourage our listeners to contact you if they have any questions. So where are we going to start? Trying to figure out if you can retire soon or if you might need to wait a while.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's never fun to suggest to someone they wait a year, but sometimes it is important to look at
Sure.
what that brings to people. So during our conversation today, let's look at some information. We'll be referencing information and insights from a recent USA Today article, three
Okay.
signs that you should wait another year before retiring.
Okay. Sounds good. So let's jump into the first sign that retiring in 2026 or soon within the next couple of years might not be the best move. And I think the first thing is probably if you're not comfortable with your savings, right? Or if you don't think you have enough saved.
That's right, Tony. There's no magic number that guarantees you'll have enough money in retirement. Everyone's situation is a little bit different. Your lifestyle, your health, where you live, what you want to do in retirement, all of those play a big role in deciding, how much we each need on an individual basis. But a simple way to check your progress is to estimate how much income you'll need each year. Subtract your expected Social Security benefits and then multiply the difference by 25. It'll give you a good ballpark for how much you should have saved. Let's say you expect to spend about $60,000 a year in retirement, and Social Security will cover $24,000 of that. That leaves you with about $36,000 a year that needs to come from your 401k, IRA, pension, 403b, any of those accounts. Multiply that 36,000 by 25, you're looking at roughly $900,000 in savings that'll make you feel a little bit more comfortable.
Sure. So, and everybody's number is different. Those are just an example of how you might go about getting a starting number and calculating these things. But if you've hit that target, great. And I know a lot of people come to you and think that they can't retire for 5 more years, and you end up looking at their situation saying you could retire tomorrow if you want. And that's got to feel good telling people that. Or you might have to say you got to work for 2 more years. But if you are falling short, that might be a sign that you're not quite ready to clock out of the workforce for good, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's worth running the numbers to see where you stand.
Yeah.
If your nest egg isn't as large as you'd hope, working just one more year can make a real difference. Not only can you keep contributing to your retirement accounts, but you'll also give your existing savings a little bit more time to grow. And if you're really far from your goal, even an extra year or two of savings might not completely close that gap. But there's good news. Delaying retirement also means you can delay claiming Social Security. Each year you wait beyond your full retirement age increases your benefit by about 8% for the rest of your life. That's a powerful way to make up for smaller savings balances.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's good. It's a great point. So even if the numbers aren't exactly where you want them right now, a little patience, a little more time in the workforce can really pay off down the line. And I know the next sign on the list, we're moving right along, but it's a sign that retiring next year might not be ideal, is if you're not yet eligible for Medicare. Right? I mean, if you're not quite there yet, that could be costly, couldn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, some of the law changes going into this year, the one big beautiful bill didn't extend those, stipends we were getting for healthcare in a lot of cases. So it's a big one. Healthcare can be an expense that ends up being one of the largest in retirement, especially before Medicare. You could face a costly coverage gap between your employer plan and that Affordable Care Act plan. Medicare eligibility typically begins at age 65. So if you're returning 64 in 2026, you're close, but you still got a year that you need to bridge there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that 1 year can be surprising, even if it's just a year you need to bridge. And for some, it's a lot longer. Some people want to retire at 62, but Medicare doesn't kick in until 65. That can be very expensive, can it?
Yeah, it really can be. You might be able to stay on your workplace plan through Cobra or purchase your own through the marketplace, but options can be pretty pricey. That can mean dipping into your savings earlier than you planned, and that's never a great way to start your retirement. Medicare isn't free either. You'll still have costs like premiums, deductibles, and copays, but in most cases, it's still way more affordable than trying to buy a private policy on your own.
Oh, yeah, for sure. A lot of people don't realize, Ryan, that their employer is really covering probably half of their health insurance cost, right? So the health insurance plan you're getting through your work, in many cases, in most cases, is greatly reduced to what it would be if you had to pay it on your own or go through Cobra. So that's tough. I think waiting, if you're a year or more away from that Medicare milestone, waiting until to retire until you're eligible, that could save a lot of money and stress.
Definitely. That one extra year of work could help you avoid a big financial strain, step into retirement with more confidence, and have health coverage that you can count on.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about savings, having enough saved in your retirement accounts, and making sure you're going to be able to cover healthcare costs. But the next one, it's more personal. It's when you realize you have no idea what you're going to actually do in retirement with all of your time. I think a lot of people think, well, they don't think about that beforehand, or they think, I'm going to golf every day, or I'm going to sit on the couch and binge watch TV shows or read books.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, a lot of people do golf every day or try to and read books, but a lot of people haven't thought about all of the things outside of the financial side of retirement. That emotional and mental side is just as important. Having all that free time sounds amazing until you realize you don't have a plan for how to fill it. You might love the idea of not having to report to work every day, but too much downtime can become a problem. It's not best to retire until you've at least a general sense of what your days will look like.
Sure. Well, because after the first few weeks of sleeping in and catching up on shows, you might start thinking, now what? I think even if you're an avid golfer, golfing every day sounds great, but you're going to hit a wall at some point, and it's usually pretty quick. It's just not realistic. That's not a realistic plan, and you have to have a purpose in
Mhm.
retirement, or your health is going to go down quick. You're going to have it's going to play on your emotions. Having a purpose is going to help you live longer and be happier in retirement, isn't it?
Absolutely. If you don't have that in place, that retirement doesn't mean as much as you want it to mean. So I completely agree with that. If you can't quite picture your retirement routine yet, it might be a sign to work another year. Use that time to explore some new hobbies, volunteer opportunities, or even a side hustle that excites you. Sometimes those part time projects turn into fulfilling second acts for people. Don't underestimate the social side either. Over the course of a year, you might meet like minded people who share your own interests, people you can travel with, garden with, play music with, just generally share some of those things you enjoy with.
Yeah, that's a great point. Retirement isn't just about stepping away from something, it's about stepping toward something else. It's a new beginning.
That's right. It's the next part of the race, so to speak. So, retirement is one of those biggest transitions you're ever going to make in your life,
Yeah.
both financially and mentally. So, it's not a decision to rush to. If any of these signs sound familiar, whether it's your savings, your healthcare timing, or your readiness for that next chapter, it might be worth rethinking your plan to retire in 2026 and just giving yourself a little bit more time. We can push forward with our conversation about strategically holding off retirement by next considering an Investopedia article. Thinking of delaying your retirement? You're not alone. Most people over 50 are pushing it back.
Yeah. And again, for anybody listening out there who's realizing retirement might be a little further away than they had originally planned, you're definitely not alone, are you?
Yeah. In fact, recent surveys show that a lot of adults approaching retirement are making the same decision that's to work longer than they once expected to. And it's not just older workers, even younger generations are starting to think an early retirement might not be as realistic for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something else we've been hearing more and more about, and that's people adjusting their expectations and their timelines, right?
Yeah, and there's plenty of reasons someone might delay that retirement, like that healthcare coverage, lifestyle goals, or just wanting to stay active. But for most adults over 50, it really comes down to savings. Whether we're trying
Yeah.
to reach a target number, make up for lost time, staying in the workplace a little bit longer can help strengthen those financial foundations.
So it's not necessarily a setback either. It's more of a strategy.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Delaying retirement even by a year or two can give you more options and more confidence when you finally decide to make that move.
Okay. Well, so far we've talked about how and why people might delay retirement, but who is actually doing it? What do the numbers show? Who's actually delaying their retirement out there?
Yeah, terrific question, Tony. The numbers might actually surprise you. Nearly a quarter of people approaching retirement say they're thinking about delaying it, according to a 2025 survey from F&G Annuities and Life Inc. And get this, almost a third of people who are already retired say they're considering unretiring and returning to work. That's not
Wow.
super uncommon in our industry. A lot of people want to, whether that's full time or part time, they just want some more flexibility in that next chapter.
But a third of people who are already retired jumping back in the workforce, that's a lot.
hmm It is. And among Generation X, who are roughly between ages 45 and 60, as many as 54% of those who retire early say they're thinking about going back to work. This pattern shows up in other research as well. A survey from Western and Southern Financial Group shared in the article found that the average American expects to retire at age 70, even though most people want to retire closer to 64. That's a pretty big gap, 6 years on average.
Yeah. I'm lucky because I love what I do and I want to do it as long as I can, as long as my voice holds out. But, sometimes we don't always get to choose ourselves when we retire either. Our health or
Right.
our boss or our companies might decide that or have a layoff. But that gap you're talking about, that's a big one. I mean, people thinking or being able to only retire at 70 when they want to at 64. That gap, though, it holds up across generations, right? That's not just Gen X that has that gap, is it?
Yeah, it holds up. So Gen Z hopes to retire around 61, but expects to retire closer to 69. Millennials say they'd like to retire around 63, but they think it's more feasible around 71. Gen X expects 70, even though they'd prefer 65. And baby boomers, they'd like to call it a day around 67, but most say it'll be closer to 71 before they can.
Yeah, basically every generation's dream retirement age is about 6 to 8 years earlier than what they think reality will end up being.
Yeah, and it highlights just how much the financial landscape has shifted. Longer lifespans are a big part of it. Rising costs and uncertainty around Social Security and healthcare all play a big part in that. But the key takeaway is this: if you're thinking about delaying retirement, you're in good company.
So, and it's not a sign of failure either. It's a reflection of people being thoughtful and realistic and even proactive about their future. So, I think it's important to keep that in mind. It's not a sign of failure. You're just being thoughtful and realistic. Now, before we continue with our conversation today, I know you love to hear from our listeners and viewers, and you guys offer no charge, no obligation consultation. Let our listeners know how they can schedule that for help building or adjusting their financial strategy.
That's right. We'd love to hear from you. Just give us a call at 715-355-4445 or visit us online at www.retirewithbushka.com. That's buska.com. Scheduling a consultation only takes a few minutes, and we're happy to work around your schedule.
All right. Well, Ryan, so far we've covered who is delaying retirement, but now let's talk about why they might be delaying retirement. Dig into that a little bit more than we already have.
Yeah, sure. For some people, it's less about numbers and more about lifestyle or purpose. In fact, about a third of those who responded to that same F&G survey we referenced earlier said that they're delaying retirement or even considering unretiring because they're worried about losing their sense of purpose.
So, and that makes a lot of sense. After decades of working, it can be hard to just suddenly step away from the structure, the goals, and especially, I think, the social connections that come with having a job, your coworkers, and that interaction.
Absolutely. On top of that, another 42% said they simply enjoy the challenge and mental stimulation that work provides. And honestly, that's something I hear from clients all the time. People find meaning in what they do, and they don't feel ready to give that up quite just yet.
So, not everyone is delaying retirement because they have to. Some genuinely want to keep working, right? Like myself.
hmm Yeah, that's generally true, but the biggest reason is still financial. More than
Sure.
half of those delaying retirement or returning to work said they're worried about their financial situation. They don't feel like they've saved enough and want a little bit more flexibility, especially in a volatile economy.
Yeah, and that's completely understandable. I think the last few years have reminded everybody how quickly things can change with markets, inflation, and especially over the past year, healthcare costs.
Yeah, that certainly makes it worth working just a little bit longer for people. Every additional paycheck, every additional contribution, and every month of deferred withdrawals can help strengthen your overall financial position before you step into that next stage of life.
Right. Now, to recap a bit here, we've covered who's delaying retirement and why. But like most financial decisions, it's not all one sided, right? There are definitely pros and cons to think about here.
Absolutely. With every decision, you've got a pro and a con typically. So delaying retirement's no different, or even returning to work after retiring can have some real benefit, but it's not the right move for everyone. The key is to understand both sides of that decision before you decide what's best for your personal situation.
Okay. Let's start with the pros.
Sure. First, delayed Social Security benefits. If you keep working and hold off on claiming, your benefit amount grows. The Social Security Administration increases your benefit by about 8% for every year you delay past your full retirement age, and that increase is permanent. Second, there is more time to save. So every year you stay in the workforce is another year to contribute to your retirement accounts like your 401k, 403b, or IRA. In 2025, the contribution limits are 23,500 for your 401k, 403b, or 457 plan, and $7,000 for an IRA.
And if you're over 50, you get catch-up contribution opportunities, right? Not that I would know anyone over 50, but
Uh, Yeah, that's right, Tony. In 2025, workers age 50 or older can put an extra 7,500 into your 401k or similar plans we mentioned earlier, and an additional $1,000 into their IRAs. And if you're between 60 and 63, you can contribute even more, up to 11,250 in catch-ups in those 401k and similar plans. And that's a big advantage for folks trying to close that gap before retirement. Third, there's financial adaptability. When you're living on a fixed income, your flexibility is limited. But by continuing to work, you maintain that regular paycheck, which gives you more options to handle surprise expenses or emergencies without dipping into your savings too soon.
and those are strong incentives to keep working a bit longer. But like you said, there's another side to it as well, right?
Absolutely. We can talk about the cons now. One is the physical and mental challenge. As we age, working full time can become tougher, especially in careers that are physically demanding or require very long hours, or even the ones that involve a lot of traveling. Another is the difficulty of finding work later in our lives. If you're trying to change jobs or unretire, age discrimination can be a real barrier. According to a study by AARP that's cited in the article, more than two-thirds of workers over 50 have either seen or experienced age discrimination in the workplace.
Yeah, I think that's a common one that isn't going away, and that's a tough stat to deal with, but definitely something that people need to keep in mind when they're planning.
That's right. You may not be able to step right back into that nice job you had before or do that
Yeah.
same job part time. So you may need to change fields. All of those things are important to consider. There's also the family needs. A 2024 poll from the University of Michigan found that about 8% of grandparents provide daily or nearly daily care for grandkids. Another 20% help out at least once a week. If your family depends on you in that way, going back to work might limit your ability to help them out. And finally, there's the personal side. Many retirees dream about traveling or pursuing hobbies in early years of retirement when they're younger and healthier. Working longer can delay those plans. In some cases, those opportunities might not come around again.
Hmm. It really comes down to priorities, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
What's most important to you right now and what you might be giving up or gaining by staying in the workforce a little longer.
That's right. And there's no one size fits all answer. That's what keeps us employed here.
Yeah.
The best approach is to look at your finances, your goals, and your lifestyle, and make decisions that keeps you both comfortable and fulfilled.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the big question of today's show. How does somebody actually decide whether or not that they should delay their retirement or not?
Yeah, it's a big question, one that's not always easy to get an answer to. Ultimately, whether you delay retirement or even rejoin the workforce depends on your personal financial situation, your health, and your interests. There are plenty of reasons to keep working longer than you once planned, and one of the biggest is simply that people are living longer.
Yeah. The good news is people are living longer. The
Hmm.
bad news is we're living longer,
Hmm.
right? I mean, longevity changes the math, doesn't it?
Absolutely. When Social Security started, the expectation is people would pass away around 70. You maybe had 5 to 10 years in retirement. That is now not what people are hoping for. We project 20 to 30-year retirements for the most part,
Wow.
sometimes even longer. So it's definitely changed how our industry operates, how Social Security operates. The whole deal is really different. When we look at a 2020 report from the US Census Bureau shared in that article, we found that from 1960 to 2017, life expectancies in the US increased by about 10 years, from roughly 69.7 to 79.7 years old. And that number is expected to keep rising. Well, longer life might mean you need to work longer to sustain your income, or might want to, just to stay active and engaged.
Yeah. But it doesn't have to be an all or nothing decision, right? I mean, it's not just full-time work versus full-time retirement. That you could have a combination platter or part-time, right?
Absolutely. A lot of people I work with find that middle ground. Part time work can be a great way to stay involved with your community, explore new interests, or just keep a little bit of extra income flowing while you can still use it for those trips and activities while you're in good health. If you love golf, maybe you become a course marshal. If you love animals, maybe you work part time at a pet store or volunteer at a shelter. If you prefer more flexibility, maybe you freelance, tutor, consult, babysit, or maybe sell some crafts online. The key is to plan early and be intentional, and to think about both your emotional needs and your financial goals.
Yeah, and I think a major key here and the solution for all of this to find out, okay, when can I retire? When will I have enough to retire? Can I retire next year? Do I have to wait a couple more years? The way to get these questions answered is by working with a trusted financial services professional like yourself, Ryan Pekka, because this is what you do, isn't it? You help people go through this process day in and day out. You're helping people. You know this process, and you sit down with each individual to find out, and each couple to find out what their goals and needs are as well, and base a solid plan on that, so they'll know, okay, this is what we have, this is where we're headed, here's our goals. One of our goals is to buy a nice RV and travel the country. Well, you're going to plan for that. You're going to plan for inflation and healthcare costs, things we've mentioned. So that's hugely important, and I just think this discussion has been a really, really good one. And that's what you do for your clients, isn't it, Ryan? You put together a plan, a written plan.
Yeah, absolutely. We give them reports, things, project things into the future. We don't have a crystal ball, but we have some good indicators, the historical data, things like that we can put together a plan and projection and kind of show you what your future can look like. And ways we work to make sure that plan stays in place for you, and we don't have to make major changes, go back to the drawing board in a year, anything like that. So we walk our clients through each of those steps, what we do as a firm to protect your assets and protect your retirement, and then also work with you on those goals. If we're not
Yeah.
quite there, we show you how to get there and say, hey, it's not impossible, but we need to make some changes, and we walk you through what some of those are. Again, we have the advantage of sitting down with a lot of different people, a lot of different experiences, so we can bring those experiences to the table with you. Even if we can't cite them directly, we have those in our back pocket, and we walk you through them the best we can.
All right. Well, great show today, Ryan. Before we go, though, let our listeners know how they can set up that no charge, no obligation consultation with you and the team there at Bushka.
Absolutely. If you have any questions about your retirement or your financial strategy, visit that website, www.retirewithbushka.com. That's buska.com, or give us a call at 715-355-4445. We'd love to help protect your savings and help you feel confident about the road ahead.
All right. And that does it for today's episode of Financially Speaking with our host today, Ryan Pekka.